Louis Theroux, maker of good documentaries, I think, on the BBC, much loved character, does a podcast. Very excited to announce that his big celebrity interview upcoming was Bob Vylan. Or one half of that Bob Vylan dreadful outfit that sang their songs or rapped their raps at Glastonbury, featuring their famous death to the IDF chant, which got the BBC into huge trouble. The BBC should have pulled them off air. They were on live, but they didn't. They stayed on. They subsequently had to apologise. We made a terrible mistake. Bob Vylan, of course, is actually a sort of duo. There's two of them. And Bob Vylan actually is a down-home guy from the mean streets of Ipswich, whose real name is Pascal Robinson-Foster. Wow, that's really kind of cutting edge, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, he's an anti-Semite, and Louis Theroux thought that it was a great idea to get him onto his podcast. Now, one would accept them from certain ilks, certain sections of society. An interview with this raging Jew hater, Pascal Robinson-Foster, might incite some interest. But I would have thought that Louis Theroux might have had a bit more intelligence than to realise this is not acceptable. What you're doing here with this podcast, Louis, is you are making money from anti-Semitism. That is just not acceptable. You cannot do that. And guess what? He's paying the price because British Airways has removed its sponsorship of Louis Theroux's podcast, saying that this is not anything that our sponsorship of the series has now been paused and the advert has been removed. We are grateful that this was brought to our attention, says British Airways. What on earth was this guy thinking? I mean, he's a bright guy, old Theroux, isn't he? Well, you can't do this. Let's talk to the Chief Executive of the Antisemitism Policy Trust, Danny Stone. Yeah, Danny, were you as surprised as I was that Louis Theroux thought this was a legitimate interview? Because what that does is it reduces Louis Theroux to the status of a man who is making money, cashing in on anti-Semitism. That can't be allowed, can it?
Well, I was surprised, I was shocked, and I was disappointed because if you look at Theroux's previous documentaries, he has challenged anti-Semites. He has tried to explain to his audience what hate speech is, and yet in this interview, whether people believe he kind of whitewashed or soft-soaped Vylan, he didn't challenge him on some of the most disgusting hate speech that has been espoused. So in failing to challenge, he provided a platform, amplified some views without that kind of qualification, without that context, and didn't really give the audience a proper chance to make its own mind up.
On the issue of Pascal Robinson-Foster himself, crazy name, crazy guy, he got away with it at Glastonbury. Death there to the IDF, that is an incitement to violence, quite clearly. It is anti-Semitic. It's a hate crime, if you ask me. He got away with that. The police sort of said, all right, well, we'll let it go. But here he is talking to Louis Theroux, repeating it, saying, I would say that again. I stand by what I say. How long is this guy going to be allowed to break our hate crime laws, Danny?
Well, if Theroux had done any research on this, and he may claim that he did, but certainly in the month before Glastonbury, Vylan had said death to every single IDF soldier out there. Last month he talked about F the Zionists, get out there and fight them, get out there and meet them in the street, get out there and let them know you don't stand by them. I mean, I'm a Zionist, so is he talking about me? Is that who is going to be?
I am too, by the way. Yeah, I love the way these people think that Zionism, or to call someone a Zionist, is an inherent insult. I'm proud to say I'm a Zionist, and so are you. So this feeds right into their innate prejudices, doesn't it?
I think so. He said, we support the right to armed resistance. Yeah, he was a bit more coy about it on Theroux's podcast. So I think that the failure to challenge is disgraceful. And my challenge to Louis Theroux is, what are you going to do now? Right? So as you say, Vylan is going to go on and say what he's going to say. There are the police investigations. He's been dropped by his management. He isn't able to get into America and work, and people will make their own minds up about that. But for Theroux, he could invite me onto his podcast. You found a way to get me onto your program. It's easy enough. So my challenge to him is, what are you going to do? How are you going to educate people? And how are you now, given you didn't provide the challenge, going to ensure that there is a challenge in the episode that comes after?
I would also suggest to Louis Theroux, I see this as a blip in another otherwise impressive career. I think he's made a serious, profound mistake here. I think we need to ask Mr. Theroux exactly how much money, I know you've lost your British Airways sponsorship, but exactly how much money have you made out of this interview with this anti-Semite, this Jew hater? Let's sum up how much money you've made. Let's cost it out, and then perhaps you could give it to your organisation or the campaign against anti-Semitism or something like that, so he could make amends. What would you think about that?
I mean, look, we're always happy to take donations if that's what he wants to do. Of course, there'll be less money because, as you have pointed out, the British Airways has paused its sponsorship of his podcast. And I think that's right. I think there do need to be consequences for these kind of things. But I would point out, you said that this is a blip in a career. Yes, I agree to an extent. But Theroux posted on X an article from the London Review of Books, which I believe was an anti-Semitic article. And he hasn't deleted that, and I challenged him directly on that. Yeah. And so I do have concerns about some of his approach. And again, I hope he will reflect on that in his podcast going forward.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't seen that. I'll have a look at that. But what I guess now, in the light of events, slightly worries me about Mr. Theroux is he's a creature of the BBC. And the BBC, I think we can fairly say, to a large extent, is an anti-Semitic organisation. Its coverage of Gaza has been Jew-hating. It's been anti-Israel, anti-Jew. There's no doubt about that. What did you make, Danny, of the BBC's conclusion after investigation into Bob Vylan at Glastonbury? It said the corporation's complaints department looking into this, death to the IDF and all this. It said that taken in the round, this can be fairly characterised as anti-Semitic. Taken in the round, this can be fairly characterised as anti-Semitic. How about this was anti-Semitic? Why don't they just say that?
Well, look, my issue with the BBC was that it took so long to get to that point. You know, there was a kind of holding statement, and then eventually, I think 48 hours later or so, there was the apology, and it took so long to get there. Now, for full transparency, our organisation is engaging with the BBC on its kind of understanding of anti-Semitism and what have you, so people should know that. I was pleased that they did come out and say what they said in the end. For me, when these things happen, it's about the protocol, right? So it's less about the content, more about the systems that are then in place, because I don't want this to happen again. I don't want further kind of hate speech to be, as I see it, to be broadcast, right? So what are they doing to stop that? And we are engaging with them on some of the measures to try and prevent that happening. So hopefully the situation will be improved. But I don't believe that Vylan should be on the BBC, on Theroux's podcast. I think people should be shunning, as I've given you some of the language that they use, people should be shunning this group, is my take.
Absolutely. And maybe shun Louis Theroux if he does anything more like this. And good luck with teaching the BBC how to be not anti-Semitic. Good luck with teaching them how to divest its Jew hatred, because I hope you succeed, Danny. But boy, oh boy, have you got an uphill task. You really have. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much, Danny Stone, Chief Executive of the Anti-Semitism Policies Trust. Next up.